Hi, and welcome to this edition of the HealthHubble podcast. My name is Carrie Plummer, and I am the editor and content manager here at HealthHubble. Today, I'm delighted to introduce as my guest Olivia Palmer. Olivia is an accredited nutritionist and psychologist, and both works in her own practice, the Nutrition Activist, while also working for Second Nature, who are endorsed by the NHS. Second Nature were the first online habit-changing programme to be commissioned by the NHS that focuses on developing healthier eating habits within a 12-week period. Olivia is also the founder of Hungry Minds, a charity working directly in local communities, raising funds to enable local businesses to help provide healthy meals to children and families. As we will discuss later, Hungry Minds is adding a new dimension to the already established food aid network here in the UK. So without further ado, welcome Olivia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Me too, thank you. So I guess for those who are tuning in and don't necessarily know a huge amount about you, perhaps we can start with who you are, what you do, and what motivates you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to start. So I'm Olivia Palmer, and I'm, as you say, I'm a registered associate nutritionist with the Association for Nutrition. And my background prior to that was very much working in campaigns, lobbying government, social media and events. And all of that was sort of underpinned with by my first degree, which was in psychology. So I love looking at, I really strongly believe in social justice, but I also believe in psychology and working with people to change behaviours that perhaps they want to improve or make better. So that's really why I went into nutrition. I was so interested in it because we can all learn about what good nutrition is, and we might know what good nutrition is, and it can change our lives unrecognizably if we do it well. But it's really about changing our behaviors around food, or I believe it's about changing our behaviors around food and the way that we approach it and the way we lead healthy lives overall that can make a difference. So that's sort of what motivates me. It's not just about teaching people about nutrition and social justice. It's about how we approach them from a behavioral angle.
That's just amazing. Thank you. So, as previously mentioned, you work within your own private practice, but also working for Second Nature. For those who may not be familiar, could you tell us a little bit about your own practice and also the work that you do with Second Nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I graduated, so I did a master's in human nutrition, and when I graduated, I started my own practice called the Nutrition Activist. And the reason I called it the Nutrition Activist was sort of what I've alluded to, in that I really believe that, well, I'm really anti the diet culture. And I really believe that people, when they want to take charge of their nutrition, they actually really need to shut down what's going on in the outside world, because we are absolutely inundated by negative diet culture, fad diets and those sorts of areas. And I loved working with private clients, and I still do occasionally work with private clients one-to-one. But actually, I got the opportunity to work with Second Nature. And when I started talking to Second Nature about the opportunity to be a health coach, I really sort of struggled with the idea of working with what I saw as, it's a weight loss app. So it's a 12-week program, and a large amount of people joining Second Nature are joining to lose weight, mostly because they really need to, or they've been referred by the NHS, and they have quite a lot of people have high blood sugar, or they may have type 2 diabetes and they want to reverse it. And I sort of, because of my activism around diet culture, and I sort of struggled to audit working for them. But as I started talking to them, I realized, and actually their campaign, their January campaign to stop fad diets is exactly why I joined them, that they talk, in order to get people aware of what they do have to talk about the weight loss. Weight loss itself is not a bad thing, particularly if you need to do it to lead a healthier life.
For sure.
What Second Nature and what I'm really against are fad diets. And I won't necessarily mention company names at all, of course, but it's an absolute fact that a lot of people joining diet companies or going on fad diets, and the keto diet is a good example of a diet which could be considered a fad diet. They go on these diets, they restrict really beyond what they should be restricting. They put really strict diet rules in place, and they can't sustain them. So actually they may lose weight, but I think it's over 80%, it might be about 86% of people who go on a fad diet will regain the weight they've lost within 5 years and put more on. And Second Nature, basically, the approach with Second Nature is, it is a habit change program with good nutritional guidelines and principles. So I sort of, whilst I do still run my private practice, I'm really focused on my work at Second Nature because they are just doing brilliant things. They're trying to stop type 2 diabetes from happening through bad lifestyle and nutrition choices. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I know from, family experience, in order to kind of break through, it is about habit changing. So it's just fantastic, the work that you're doing. So tell us, what do you like to do outside of clinic? What do you do?
Well, so I absolutely love swimming. I've always been an open water swimmer, and I actually met my husband open water swimming. So we met in Tooting Bec Lido in London, went for a swim in the winter, and then we ended up going on a swimming holiday together. And I will swim anywhere, as long as the colder the better, really. I've swum in Finland, and I've swum.
Wow.
Me and my husband swam around Jersey, which was amazing.
Gosh.
And now I live in Devon, so we live by the sea and by the River Dart, and if we can, we'll get in. And the kids got in just last week, and we're basically really outdoorsy people. And even when we don't feel like it, as a family, if we get outside, we're nicer people once we've done it. So that's basically what we like to do. Yeah.
I love that, we're nicer people.
Yeah.
So I briefly mentioned Hungry Minds. Now, Hungry Minds is a new charity that you have founded. And for those who aren't familiar with it, could you tell us a little bit about what it aims to do, where the inspiration came from, and how this differs to other food aid options that are already available?
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good question. So basically, my absolute passion at the moment is Hungry Minds. And as I've already mentioned, social justice is something I've always been passionate about. I really believe that everyone deserves the same chance in life. And I grew up in a very, I always say I had a fairly vanilla upbringing, in that it was just really normal. And, I didn't have any hardship. I was really lucky until I was sort of about 17 or 18 when life events started happening. That happened to all of us. We all have bad things happen. And then I started becoming aware of the fact that different people go through different things. Different people have different experiences of life. And I realized that not everyone can put food on the table.
Yeah.
I started volunteering, and I started campaigning, and I started realizing that actually, and this is quite a long time ago, so sort of 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and I started realizing that not everyone could afford to put breakfast on the table. And I started recognizing how lucky I was, and I didn't feel good about that. And it wasn't just because I didn't feel good about it, but it was because I just felt that the world was such an unjust place. And how could one of the richest countries in the world have millions of people that couldn't afford to feed themselves?
Yeah.
And when I first started looking into this, there was a real rhetoric around, and it is a fairly conservative rhetoric around, well, we should probably just teach them more home. When I was at school, we had home economics and cooking lessons, and that's why now. And it just blew my mind that people couldn't see beyond that one dimension. And actually, it's not just about cooking, teaching people to cook. It's a really big problem. So with that's why I started learning about nutrition, because I wanted to have credibility to go into this. And the aim of Hungry Minds is not just to add to the food aid network that exists already, because we have a huge network of food banks, food aid, of people, cafes and restaurants offering children free meals in the holidays. And this was long before Marcus Rashford, who's done an amazing job, but long before him, this was going on. And I don't simply want to add to that. What I want to do is I want to let the Food Foundation, for example, and the Children's Food Foundation, they recognize that people are often too embarrassed to take up food aid. There is a lot of stigma around it. I've spoken to teenagers who don't want to go in for their free school meal at secondary school because they've been called a skank, or they don't want to go into a food bank because they're embarrassed, they're proud. And it's not okay for us to sit here and say, oh, just pull your socks up and go and get the free food. It's not okay for us to ignore that element of it. So what Hungry Minds does is we fundraise so that we can destigmatize food aid and send families and children into a local cafe or restaurant for a nice, healthy meal. So a meal that they don't have to cook themselves, a meal where they can go and sit and spend time together. They don't have to wash up. There's no stress. They simply sit down and eat. And what we're also doing by doing that is we're reinvesting the food aid pound back into the local community. So it's local independent cafes and restaurants that are, so it's a circular solution to a problem that shouldn't be here and hopefully won't be here in 10 years' time. But whilst it is here, I'd like families to be able to take up food aid without feeling embarrassed about it.
Yeah, it's crucial work. It is 100% crucial work, and you're quite right. Marcus Rashford has worked beautifully in raising everyone's awareness, but you're quite right. This has been an issue that has been a really long-standing one. So thank you for telling us about that. Now, you've written a number of articles for us that we proudly share on our website and we share through social media. So everything from the role of nutrition in fighting COVID-19, and as you said, some really helpful articles regarding dieting and dispelling many of the myths that we're bombarded with on a daily basis, especially through social media. Are there any common themes that you see within your clinic?
Yeah, so the biggest thing actually this year, because I've been thinking, how would I reflect on this year? And the biggest theme I've noticed this year is people beating themselves up for failing. So quite often you find that people embark on a new journey or a new lifestyle, and that often involves a new exercise regime, a new diet, and a new approach to life. And actually, you know, you and I both know the world of social media. Every day there is something new that you should be doing. So today, today I want you to do mindfulness. I want you to do deep breathing. I want you to go for a 10-mile walk. I want you to, you know, I want you to drink 8 litres of water, 8 glasses of water. You know, and all of these things put together are great ideas. Absolutely. When I talk to clients or when I work with people at Second Nature, I say, just today, just try and drink 2 litres of water. That's all I want you to do today. Because what the common theme this year has been is people make a list of all the things they want to change and they try and do it all at once. And then when they don't manage it, they think it's their fault. And the other thing that people do is they think, oh, why can't I resist chocolate? Why can't I resist cakes? Why can't I resist all that amazing food that's there in the supermarket? Well, it's not their fault. You know, these big companies who make these products spend billions of pounds making those products taste so good that the reward center in our brain just goes, whoa, you know, it's an absolute fact. And it's the fact that we want them is because we are physiologically made up so that we crave those things. If we're hungry, we want to eat those things. It's not a bad thing. So if I could somehow wave a magic wand and say to people, hunger is a natural response to being alive. If you want to lose weight, you still need to eat. You have to fuel a weight loss system. And if you have a chocolate biscuit, it doesn't mean you failed. It means you've enjoyed a chocolate biscuit. You know, if I could just slightly reword. It takes time. That is the biggest theme I've seen this year above any other health issue at all. It's always behavioural. It's always guilt-based.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think even I know when we talked earlier in the year, there was that sense of frustration of how people were kind of beating themselves up through living through lockdown, and how people have been turning, you know, to the odd treat every now and again in this really unprecedented time. And actually, as human beings, you know, we're designed to have human contact. So to see some of these, you know, individuals beating themselves up equally was really frustrating. So what tips would you give to your clients like right now about their nutritional health? Are there any simple tips that we can follow to help future-proof our own overall health?
Yeah, so I would say there's some really simple guidelines that I follow. And the first one is, if you're feeling like your nutrition isn't optimal and you're actually feeling low on energy, you've got brain fog, you're not concentrating, the biggest thing is just to check your sugar intake, because actually we all eat a lot of sugar, and that includes refined carbohydrates. So I'm not saying cut out sugar. I'm not at all. I'm not saying never eat a biscuit again. I'm just saying just check how much you're having on a daily basis, because it can creep up. Don't suddenly restrict it. But the other thing I would say is if you wake up and you think, oh, I really need to do something, I'm just eating too much stuff that doesn't make me feel good. Start one day, on day one, just start by drinking 2 litres of water that day. If you do nothing else, just drink 2 litres of water, get a reasonably early night and see how you feel the next day. And some days we just have to sit through a bad day. We just have to sit through a day where our digestion is not quite right, our hormone levels are wrong, we feel a bit stressed, we feel a bit scratchy. It's fine, you just sit through it. Do something for yourself, like take a warm bath, drink water, and then wake up the next day refreshed, and then look at what you're eating. Don't dive into a sort of new nutritional regime. But what I said about the sugar, that is the thing I always check with people, just because for me, the biggest change I can make to my life and the way I can eradicate brain fog is if I just stop that after dinner chocolate or 4 quality sweets, so.
It's difficult this time of year, obviously, as we're heading into the festive period, but I think you're quite right. It is, a lot of it does start with just those small changes, and actually those small changes multiplied actually make a huge difference. So finally, as a successful clinician and businesswoman, and with children yourself, you have 2 daughters, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Oh, I thought about this question a lot because it's really interesting, and actually there is so much I would want to tell my younger self. I just wish I could go back. But when it comes to sort of nutrition, eating, life in general, I would just say, just be kinder to yourself. And what I mentioned earlier about this year, the big theme is people always feeling like they haven't achieved. Well, thoughts aren't facts. If I could just tell my younger self that, thoughts aren't facts. If I say, oh, I failed at that. Well, who says you failed at that? Oh, I've lost my mojo. Who says you've lost your mojo? Always checking myself. If I could just say to my younger self, always check yourself, because it's only you telling yourself that thought.
Yeah.
It's not someone else telling you telling you. So I just say, remember, thoughts aren't facts. But you can turn thoughts into facts if you want to. So, it's all about mindset.
It is 100%. Olivia, thank you so much. So if you are keen to read more of Olivia's articles, you can hop on over to the HealthHubble website at healthhubble.com, where you can find, as I said, all of Olivia's articles. To find more information directly from Olivia herself, you can find her on social media under the handle of the Nutrition Activist. You can also visit her website too. If you are interested in information regarding Hungry Mind, you can hop on over to their website at hungry-minds.org.uk. Olivia, thank you so much for all of your time this morning. It's been a real delight speaking with you. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Thank you.